Hey fellow coders, welcome back to Coding Hub, and today we are jumping into the realm of Python functions. We'll be not just covering the basics, but we'll be also covering the advanced concept, so you are not left behind. So let us understand the outline of the video. So in the starting, we'll be learning about the Python functions. It will be just an introduction. After this, we'll be learning how to define our own function and then how to call our function. After this, we'll be learning about function arguments, parameters. Then we'll be learning about how to return a value or return a statement. Then we'll be learning about default arguments, keyword arguments, and then we'll be learning about variable scope like global and local scope. After this, we'll be also covering the Lambda function, or we can say the anonymous function. Then we'll be learning how recursion and recursive function call works in Python. Then we'll be learning about decorators and function decorators. It's an amazing concept and you'll be loving it. After this, we'll be covering the built-in function and the Python standard library. So are you excited to learn all of this? Surely I am. Let's rock and roll. Okay, so what are functions? A function consists of a block of code which defines a functionality. Now, why we use function? So we use function to reduce redundancy in code and to increase the reusability in a code. We'll be understanding all of this as we'll be deep diving into this video. So let us start by defining our own function, and we can say def, then we can say greet. Okay. Now over here, this def keyword is basically being used to define a function. Whenever you will be seeing this keyword before a function, you can understand that we are trying to define a function over here. Okay. So over here, then we are having this greet, right? So this greet is basically the function name. Okay. Now the next thing will be to, print something inside this greet. So we can say welcome to Coding Hub, right? And after this, we can call this function from here. So we can say greet. Now, if we compile this code, we'll be getting this welcome to Coding Hub, right? So what is happening over here? So this is using which we are defining the function. Now this is the function block over here where we are basically storing the functionality of this particular function. Now what is the functionality of this function? So the functionality of this function is that it is greeting a user, a user to Coding Hub, right? And this is the function calling. So using this, we are basically calling this greet function, right? Okay, now let us reformat this file. For this, you can come over here and, reformat the file. Now, let us call this function one more time. Okay, so let us call this greet function one more time. And now you can see this welcome to Coding Hub 2 times, right? So from here, you can understand how we are reusing this same printf function by just, invoking this greet. Okay, so we are just calling this greet function, and using this, we can directly achieve this welcome to Coding Hub one more time. Now, the problem over here is that, this is a stable code, right? So it is not changing upon each of the function call. For this, let us understand how we can pass a value to a function. For this, what we can do, let us suppose in this greet, we pass a value something like Coding Hub. Okay, and then in this, we can say, something like welcome to Python tutorial, like that. And I want that we get this welcome to Coding Hub for this one. And then I want welcome to Python tutorial. Now for this, because we are sending a string over here, we have to receive it over here. So let us say something like name. Now, whatever we'll be sending over here will be initialized to this name. And then we can print this name. So we can use a f string over here. And then we can simply come down over here and, in the curly braces, we can have this name, right? And now if we compile this code, we'll be getting this welcome to Coding Hub, welcome to Python tutorial. So this is how you pass an argument, and this is how you received a parameter. Okay. So what we are doing over here, we are basically passing an argument, which is basically a string, which is Coding Hub for the first function call. Now this parameter will be initialized with this Coding Hub, right? And then we are basically using the f string to print this name over here with the welcome to string, right? So we are saying welcome to Coding Hub. Now for the next call, what will be happening? This Python tutorial, which is an argument, will be sent over here this parameter will be initialized with this Python tutorial, and then using the same as string, we are basically printing welcome to Python tutorial. So now you can understand how this code reusability using is, because we don't have to redefine this code again and again. We don't have to write this code again and again. We can simply use the predefined functionality by directly calling that function, right? So let us understand few more things, and let us understand how we can return a value. Let us suppose we want to return something like the string only. So let us suppose we want to return welcome to this name. How we can do this? So we can come over here and we can say return, right? And then we can have this welcome to, right? And with this we can add our own value, which is name, right? And now what we can do, instead of this just calling this greet function, we can call this in a print. And if we do this, if we do this and we also print this one, right? If we do this also, now if we compile the code, see, now we are getting this welcome to coding hub, welcome to Python tutorial. So what is happening? So the thing which is happening is very simple. We are sending this coding hub to this greet, and this greet is returning us with a string, which is this welcome to plus name. Now this name will be this coding hub. So it will be returning this string, which is welcome to coding hub. And hence, when we are calling this function, this greet function, and when this greet function will be completely executed, this return statement will return over here. And this return statement will be printed over here, like welcome to this, right? So let us understand one more example. Let us say we say def, and we can say addition, right? And let us have two variables like a, b, or we can say parameters. And then we can simply say return, right? And we can say a plus b, right? And now if we call this addition function, so we can simply say addition, and we can pass two values. Let us suppose we pass 2 and 3. And now if we compile this code, we'll be not getting anything, right? Because we are not printing this value. So let us suppose we store this value in one place, or we can directly print that. So we can directly print that if we want to print that directly. So we can directly print that. And if we print this now, we are getting this summation, which is 5, because we were passing two values, which are 2 and 3, right? 2 and 3. So we'll be getting 5, right? Or what we can do, we can also store this value, we can store this value in, let us suppose, C, right? And after this, what we can do, we can again call this addition function, and let us suppose we pass this C, 2. So we'll be having 5, 2, right? And now we can print this if you want to. So we can print this over here, right? And now we can also print the C over here. So for the first function call, what will be happening? 2 and 3 will be added up, right? And this will be returned over here, and C will be initialized with this return value, which will be 5, right? So we'll be getting this, 5 over here, as we are just printing the value of C. After this, we are again calling addition. Now this time we are passing this C, which is 5, with a 2, right? And we are printing this. So what we'll be getting? We'll be getting 7, right? So if we compile this code, we'll be getting this 5 and 7, right? So this is how you basically, return a string, or we can say return a statement. With this, we have also understand how to return a value. Okay, so we can also return a single value. We can also do something like, we can just pass C also if you want to. So we can, come over here and we can directly say C, A plus B, something like this. And then we can return C also. So that also works, no problem on that. So we'll be still getting this 5, 7, right? So this is how function works, So let us understand more, Let us understand how we can define a default argument and what are keyword arguments. Let us also understand that. So for that, what I will be doing, I will be simply, removing this code for now. Okay, now we can move into the next part. Okay, so now let us understand how this works. For this, we can, define another function. We can simply say test greet only, okay? And in this greet function, what we can simply say something like print. Let us have a string, and we can say hello. And, let us have a name over here. Now, in this name, what we were doing previously, we were basically passing a name from here, right? So we were saying greet, and we can say something like coding hub, something like that. Okay, so you can have anything, or any string over here, whatever you want to pass, and we were able to simply say this creating coding hub, right? Now what we can do also is that what if we still want to say this coding hub, and if we don't pass this coding hub, right? So how we do it? So we do it by the default parameter. Okay, so what we can do is we can have a default value to this parameter. We can simply say coding hub. Now what will happen if someone from here doesn't pass anything? Let us suppose he pass nothing. Okay, so then what will be happening? This name will be by default initialized with a value of coding hub. So let us see what will be happening if we compile this code. We'll be getting this still hello coding hub, right? But if someone pass an argument from over here, we can say hello Python, something like that, then this this value will be overwritten with a new value, which will be Python, and this coding hub will be not printed out for this function call. So we can simply say recompile, and we'll be getting this hello Python. Okay, so what we have learned on this particular section, we have learned that we can initialize a parameter by default. Okay, and this parameter can be overwritten by passing an argument from over here. Okay, so this is also an usability which you can use upon different scenarios. Okay, now I will be commenting out this also, and let us jump into the next part. Okay, so the next part which we'll be learning is that we'll be learning what is variable scope and global scope, local variable scoping, right? So let us understand this. Let us suppose we have a variable x, and I say x equals 10. Okay, and now we can come inside a function, and we can say def display, and in this display, what we can say, we can simply say y equals 20, and let us say we want to print this y. Okay, so we are simply printing this y, right? And now what we can do, we can come down, and let us suppose over here, what I'm trying to do is I am simply calling this display. Okay, or we can say something like we are calling this display, and now if we compile this code, we'll be getting this 20, right? So this is the same thing which we have done till now, but let us suppose I want to print a value over here, and I want to print this x. Okay, and if we do so, we are getting this 10, right? Now what if we want to print this y over here? So can we do this? Can we say print y? We cannot. So we'll be getting an error, right? The reason is that y is not defined. Now why is it saying y is not defined when we have defined y? The reason is that the scope of this variable is still this display block. Okay, so this y, the existence of this y is still this display function. Okay, so this y cannot be accessed outside of this display function, because its visibility, or we can say its existence, is completely dependent upon this display function. Okay, while this x, this x is a global variable. And what is a global variable? So a global variable is a variable which can be accessed through, or we can say accessed from anywhere from the code. Okay, so it is someone which can be accessed from anywhere. Okay, while this y, it is a local variable. Why it is a local variable? Because it is defined inside a function block, which is display. Okay, and a local variable is localized to that particular defining function, or we can say the function which is having that local variable. Okay, so we can only access this y by calling this display function, or it can be accessed from this display function. So this display function can modify the value of y or do anything. Okay, but we cannot do that directly from here, so we have to call that display function from here. So we can say display, right? And then what we can do, we can simply return this value of y. So we can say return y, and now we'll be able to see this updated value, which is 10, right? So this is how we can access a global scope and local scope, and this is the simple definition. There is not much to learn about this. If you clearly see this example, you can understand what is a global scope and what is a local scope, right? So let us move into the next part, where we'll be learning about the lambda function. So for this I will be commenting this out also for now. So let us comment this out also. And now let us understand what is a lambda function. Now to understand a lambda function, what we can simply say something like multiply. Okay, so we are simply saying multiply, and in this multiply, what I can say, I can come over here and I can say lambda. Okay, and in this lambda we can have something like xy. Okay, and now we are basically having something like x into y. Okay, and now if we simply come over here and let us say we say the result, or we can simply say print, and we can say multiply, and let us suppose we pass two values something like 2, 3. So we want the multiplication of 2, 3, and if we compile this code, else we'll be getting this 3 2s are 6, right? So how is it doing? Okay, how is it working? So lambda function, it is an anonymous function. It doesn't have a name. So how we access this function? How we call this function? We can call this function with the name of the initialized variable. So the variable which will be this variable is being initialized with this lambda function. So to access this lambda function, we'll be using the name of this variable, right? So we are using this name. Now let us understand what is happening. So this is a lambda keyword which is basically being used to define a lambda function. Then we are having this x and y, and we are doing this to receive this argument. So we can say these are two parameters of this lambda function, right, which are x and y. So this 2 will be initialized to this x, and this 3 will be initialized to this y, and then we are basically defining what we want to do through this lambda function. So we are basically saying multiply both of this, and it will automatically return the resultant value to this multiply function call, right? Okay, so this is how it is working. So after this calculation, it will be initialized to this multiply, and hence we'll be getting that value which is 3 2s are 6, right? So this is how lambda function works. And we in a working environment, in a big company, lambda function, or in a big code, lambda function is used widely. The reason is we want functions not just too big, but we also want functions which are small. And lambda function, it is a one-liner function which is very much usable. Like in Android development, lambda function is something which is used widely. Okay, so now let us move into the next part, where we'll be understanding how recursion and recursive calling works in Python. For this, I'll be commenting out this also. Okay, now let us understand that part. Okay, to understand recursive calling, let us understand a very simple problem, which is a problem of calculating factorial. For this, we can simply say def factorial, right? So we can say factorial, and in this factorial, we can basically have this function factorial, and now we can simply say if n equals 0, we can simply say return 1, and else we can have another thing over here, which we can say simply return n multiplied by factorial of n minus 1. So this is a recursive call over here, which is happening over here. Okay, so what we are doing over here, will be learning this. Now what we have to do, we have to simply call this factorial function over here from this place. So we can simply say something like print, and let us say factorial, and let us pass a value of 5. So we are calculating factorial of 5. Now what is a factorial? How do we calculate a factorial? For this, we can simply say, if we want to calculate factorial of 5, we can simply say 5 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 1. So this is how you'll be getting the result of this factorial of 5, which will be somewhere around 120, right? Because 5 4s will be getting 20, 60 and 120, right? So 120 will be the factorial of 5. So let us see what will be happening over here. So initially, this value will be passed to this factorial, right? And we can simply say n over here. So this factorial of 5, this 5 will be initialized to this parameter, which is n. So now n is 5, right? So the first thing which it will check is if n is equals 0. So it is not true. Hence this else block will be executed, which is basically saying return n, which is 5 multiplied by factorial of 4, because 5 minus 1 will be 4, right? Then this factorial function will be again called with a new value of 4, it will again check this, and what will happen? 4 multiplied by factorial of 3, right? So this will again call, it will keep on going till it reaches this n equals 0. When it will reach n equals 0, this will return value of 1. So what will happen? 1 multiplied by 1, right? So 1 multiplied by 1, this value will be returned again, where it was 2 into the factorial of 1, right? So there it will be receiving 1. So we'll be getting 2 into 1. Then this value will again be returned from that particular return where it was 3 multiplied by 2, and hence we'll be getting this 6, right? Then it will be, returned to this overall return will be returned to the place where it was called 4 multiplied factorial of 3, and hence we'll be receiving 6. So it will be now 4 into 6, and we'll be getting 24, right? And then finally we'll be getting that 5, and hence we'll be getting that 120. Okay, so this is how this this recursive call will be working. Now I will be bringing a separate video for recursion, and you can navigate to that video, which I will be referring in future. So for that you can subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any update. I will be discussing this recursive calling in depth. So I am not focusing much on this part because it is not a recursive focused video, but it is mostly over this function calling. So this is how recursion works in Python. So we can now simply compile this code and we'll be getting this value of 120, right? So this is how recursion works. Okay, now let us comment this out also. So we can select all of this and let us comment this out also. Now let us move into the next part, where we'll be understanding about decorators and function decorators. For this we'll be having a decorator function. We can simply say def uppercase decorator, okay, and then we can simply say fun over here. Now this will be basically the function which this decorator function will receive, okay, and it will be just uppercase, right? Now after this we can simply define a wrapper function. So we can simply say wrapper, and in this wrapper what we can simply do is that we can simply say result equals, we can say fun, and we'll be converting the return value of this function to uppercase, and then we can simply return the result. And after this what we'll be doing will be simply returning this wrapper function. Okay, so we'll be returning this wrapper. Now what we can do over here, we can define the greet function. We can simply say greet, and in this greet function we can simply have a print statement, or we can simply return a value, something like this. So we can return something like this, hello coding hub, right? Now this entire text over here, this greet function is returning a lowercase string. Now we have to do one more thing, we have to provide an annotation of this uppercase decorator. Now we can simply call this this greet function, and after calling this we can simply execute this block, and we'll be getting this hello coding hub in capital letters, right? So now let us understand what is happening over here. So see, when this this Python compiler will compile this code, what will it do? It will see this annotation which is uppercase decorator, and upon seeing this it will understand, okay, so this function this def greet function has to be passed to this uppercase decorator function, and this greet function will be passed over here. So now this function C will be having this function inside it. Okay, so after this will be it will be basically returning this wrapper function. Okay, now what will be happening? So the thing which will be happening is that whenever this greet function is being called, this greet function will not be called. Instead of this wrapper function will be called. The reason is this, because this greet function is being passed to a decorator function. Okay, now what will be happening? Let us suppose we call this greet function. So what will happen? This wrapper function will be automatically called, and this result, this result will be initialized with this function. Now this function which we have already passed is this greet. So what it will return? It will return this hello coding hub, which is in a lowercase. We are converting that to a uppercase, and then we are initializing it to this result. Hence we'll be getting a uppercase string which is hello coding hub. Then we are basically returning the result which is having the string, right? This uppercase string, and hence we'll be getting that value upon calling this greet function. So this is how decorator function works. It's an amazing thing and it is widely used. Okay, so the last thing which has to be discussed is the built-in function in Python. With this we'll be also learning about the modules from the Python standard library. So let us understand the built-in function. Let us suppose we are having a list of numbers. So we'll be having a list of numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And now, we can find the sum of this entire number by simply saying total equals sum, and then we can pass this list, which is this numbers. And now if we simply print this value of this total, we'll be getting the sum of all of this numbers. So if we compile this code, we'll be getting this 15. So what is happening? A Python developer has already written this sum function, in this, the library, or we can say the built-in library, and we are directly invoking that function, and we are just passing this list, and it is just providing the summation of all the items on that list. So this is a built-in function, and we don't have to, create a new function for this, because we have been already provided with this. So we can use that function. There are multiple various built-in function. I'll be linking a documentation for particular that section in the description. You can look into that part and you'll be able to see all the, the built-in function which are by default available. Now let us understand one more thing. So let us understand how modules works. So we can simply say import, and let us say we want to import the random module. Now over here, we can simply say random number. Now random, this random module can be used to generate random numbers. So we can say random.rand int, and we have to provide a range, something like 1 to 10 we are saying, and then we can simply say print random number, and then we can simply say random number. Okay, and now if we compile this code, we'll be getting this random number of 10, right? Now if we again compile this code, we'll be getting a different number, something like this 9, right? So what is happening over here? This random module, we are basically using this to randomly generate variables between this range from 1 to 10, and it will randomly generate a number, and we are then printing that number. Okay, so we have covered a lot in this video. Now it is completely upon you how you'll be practicing all of this. I'll be linking few of the questions in the description. You can try to solve all of them, and after this you will be able to understand all of this concept completely. However, I will be suggesting you to watch the video at least one more time, so you can understand all the hidden details or the details which you have missed. Till then, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you never miss any upcoming update from us. This is Coding Hub signing up for this video, and we'll be seeing you in the next video.